Hey everyone, Tankenstein here. In this video, I'll be reviewing the Firecrest, of which is a currently 2.3 BR Rank 2 Squadron vehicle in the Great Britain Air Tech Tree. In this video, I'll be going over everything that you need to know about it, including its stats, how it plays, I'll go over its strengths and weaknesses, I'll give some scores in several key areas, and then I'll give my final recommendation, and if I feel if this vehicle is either worth grinding for, or purchasing, or simply none of the above. As always, please consider subscribing if you'd like more content like this, as I greatly appreciate it and it helps my channel to grow. But with that being said, let's get into the review. Now to start, I'll place a stat card here on the side of the screen. Important things to note are its top speed, rate of climb, and number of M3 HMGs. Now for how it plays. The Firecrest is, in short, a very generic vehicle, but not in a bad way. It really doesn't do anything poorly, and actually excels in many areas, especially at its current 2.3 VR. For instance, the Firecrest has an excellent rate of climb and a very good top speed relative to the planes that it will typically face, with having a fairly standard amount of firepower, with 1.72 kilograms per second of burst mass coming from two M3 HMGs that carry a total of 600 rounds between the two. Further, the Firecrest also carries an air spawn and can turn fairly decently, though is not anything better than average in terms of maneuverability, meaning that you can easily fly up to altitude in Air RB and destroy bombers, while using its good speed and dive rate to descend and devastate fighters at a lower altitude. This works surprisingly well, especially with tracer belts equipped, as they will set fire to nearly all enemies that they hit. This basically upends its role as a base bomber, as it can only carry two 500-pound bombs, which really isn't all that much for that role, meaning that you will typically have much greater success when flying as an interceptor or fighter in Air RB. Overall, however, the Firecrest is very capable when playing in Air RB, and despite the fact that using bombs will take away many of its advantages while only giving a relatively small score in return, it can be played however you want and should be a consistently high scorer. Now for close air support. In many ways, I feel that despite this being a strike aircraft, it excels more so at air cover than close air support, though can still perform CAS very well, especially considering that it has plenty sufficient armament to destroy many ground targets around its BR. With decently penning 50 cal HMGs, a set of two 500-pound bombs, and optional rockets, the Firecrest can perform very well in a close air support role. It really depends on who you target, however, as you should be able to get plenty of kills versus open top enemies, but likely few kills against those with any decent armor present. Because of this, target identification is extremely important when flying this plane, as it will oftentimes be the difference of 0 to 1 enemy ground kills per match, and 3+ in a match while using the Firecrest in a CAS role. Again, I feel that this plane is likely to be a touch better when destroying other enemy CAS planes than performing CAS itself, but that's only because it destroys other planes so well. Finally, the Firecrest can carry a single torpedo, which will assist in naval matches, and can even be used at higher BRs, especially if you don't have any torpedo carrying planes available. The Firecrest's mix of speed and its ability to carry said torpedo are more than enough for it to be sufficient in this role up through BRs when fighting destroyers and cruisers in naval battles. Now with that said, let's get into its strengths and weaknesses, and first for its strengths. It has excellent performance for 2.3 BR between its speed, rate of climb, and decent enough turn rate. Second, it features air brakes, which are extremely rare for a plane of this BR and also incredibly useful. Third, while it only has two MGs, the Firecrest has the ability to equip the incendiary tracer belts, which are incredibly powerful versus enemy aircraft. Further, these are M3 Brownings, which have over a 50% higher rate of fire than M2 Brownings. This puts you at a huge fire rate advantage, as M3 Brownings aren't typically seen until around the time that jets start entering the tech tree. For its fourth strength, HMGs are powerful enough at this BR to get a few ground kills with ease, as many opponents are either open top or have little armor. Beyond this, the Firecrest is a durable aircraft and will take tons of hits before crashing. For its sixth strength, it can carry a torpedo. And finally, the Firecrest features an air spawn, making it far easier to take down enemy planes, including bombers, while playing in Air RB. Now with that said, for its weaknesses, it only has two HMGs for its entire primary armament, with only 600 rounds in total. This isn't all too bad considering that the Firecrest is currently only 2.3 BR, and that it has excellent belts and that they are M3 HMGs. Second, the Firecrest has a fairly large airframe for this BR, though it's not incredibly large. Third, while decently maneuverable, the Firecrest can outturn most actual dogfighters like BF-109s or really any Japanese dogfighters. And finally, it has a relatively light anti-ground loadout with only up to 2 500-pound bombs or 8 rockets, though this is pretty understandable at least given its low BR. Now with that said, let's get into how I score this vehicle. For dogfighting, I give it a 7.5 out of 10. The key to this score is the BR at which the Firecrest flies. Quite simply, given its BR in Air RB and its excellent rate of climb and speed, the Firecrest can easily climb up to the altitude of bombers, destroy or damage one, and then dive down to wreak havoc on lower altitude enemy fighters. Even in up tiers, this is doable because of just how good its performance is, especially when combined with its air spawn. Further, even though it only has 2 HMGs, they are M3 HMGs, giving the Firecrest a respectable burst mass at this BR and can carry pure armor-piercing incendiary tracer belts, which means that enemies will almost always catch on fire when hit. With the exception of its average-ish maneuverability and somewhat low ammo count, the Firecrest is a surprisingly capable aircraft for dogfighting, especially if you play it to its strengths. It is very surprising that this is currently only 2.3 BR. Now with that said, for close air support, I give it a 6.75 out of 10. As mentioned before, the Firecrest is somewhat better at performing air cover and destroying enemy CAS planes than it is at performing CAS itself. This is largely because of its somewhat limited payload of only 2 500-pound bombs, 8 RP-3 rockets, or even just a torpedo. The thing is though, that this is actually a fairly decent payload considering its BR. Further, with armor-piercing rounds, the Firecrest can strafe and kill enemy ground targets with relative ease, especially if you have an eye for picking out the unarmored vehicles to shoot at. In all, this is a very capable CAS plane, though definitely not overpowered in this role. It will be a definite option for CAS for several BRs if you don't have any other plane available for this role. Now with that said, overall, I give it a 7.25 out of 10. While not perfect, the Firecrest is definitely excellent in the roles in which it plays. It can perform in any way that you want and excel. It doesn't have any real weak points except for having somewhat average maneuverability and a fairly low ammo count. Regardless, if you maximize its strengths, the Firecrest will consistently be one of the best aircraft in air, regardless of if you're playing air or ground, and regardless of if you're in an up tier or a down tier. Now with all that being said, for my final recommendation, do I recommend the Firecrest? Simply put, I fully recommend this plane. If not for its current rank of 2, I could see this plane being much more sought after than it currently is. Unfortunately, however, this is an often forgotten about vehicle, but is definitely an excellent choice for a Squadron vehicle if you already have your main Squadron vehicles unlocked. It is excellent for anti-air, great for anti-ground, and can even perform anti-shipping. The Firecrest is a thoroughly versatile and deadly aircraft, and it receives my Tankenstein seal of approval. I had a much better time with this plane than I have with nearly any other Squadron vehicle thus far released. I wish more people would play it because it is definitely one of the best Squadron vehicles currently in-game, and outside of some naval Squadron vehicles, may be the least played, so I definitely recommend researching this aircraft, especially if you have your main vehicles unlocked already, but probably not purchasing it with GE just because it is a rank 2 vehicle. The Firecrest deserves more attention and will reward those that take it out for a spin. Now with that being said, thank you all so much for watching. Please consider liking this video, commenting on it, and subscribing to my channel, as all of those mean the absolute world to me. Either way though, thanks again, and I'll see you all on the other side. Take care everyone.